So here's another flight that I've done recently from Longmynd. So I'm doing a Cobra launch, but in hindsight I should have packed it up a little bit better. You can see it's sort of slid across the surface. Not good for the top surface, so I'll try and work on that next time. Yeah, and as soon as I launched, just trying to stay close to the ridge, turn into it as normal. Plenty of people around today. It's good 5-star weather again. I set a goal to hit just outside Kidderminster area, so it's about 50 something K. And yeah, just initially searching for a few thermals here, but I do start getting a little bit low, so I start heading towards this farmhouse here. But I was just hitting tons of sinks, so I decided to turn back to the safety of the ridge, sort of start scratching closer to it. Was a little bit nervous because I was coming up to the main launching area, so you can see I'm really sort of looking across, making sure no one's taken off, and if they do, I'm ready to turn away. There's already a fair few people who had got really quite high already, so the thermals are definitely working. But you can see here, yeah, I really dropped down, not dangerously low, but low enough to get me a bit startled. The annoying part is that the thermals were mainly working over the takeoff point, so at first I'm doing a few S turns just in front, and then when I got far enough out, I could put in full, my first full like 360. But since I was in front of the launch area, I really wanted to make sure that I was like had enough height and enough distance away from it, so not to get in anyone's way in particular. The only thing about catching thermals as well so low and so close to the ridge is obviously getting drifted back quite a lot. So I was constantly on the lookout of how far back I was drifting, making sure to continuously push forward. You'll see that quite a lot through this video, and even better would be pushing into the flatlands in front and catching something, but it just wasn't really working as well. So you can see every so often here I'm really pushing forwards, pushing through sinks, sometimes having to put bar on. Yeah, look how far back I'm drifting, so it's like well over the back road here, which isn't ideal, but because the wind wasn't super strong, it's not the worst thing. But if the wind was much stronger, I'd be pushing way further forwards next time. I like this side of the Mind more, just because you're away from the glider traffic. It was working more, just with slightly more south-facing ridge as it bends around. And yeah, it was definitely a little bit choppy at times. Apparently, it can get kind of wave influence sometimes, which sort of turns the thermals a little bit more choppy. But nothing that a bit of glider control can't handle. Yeah, you can see here, see the glider coming around, so getting some good height. But obviously their final leg is beneath me here to come into the airfield. So you can see here, bottom right, there's quite a few gliders playing around with that farmhouse. It's quite a good thermal source. And that's probably what I'm playing in just above them as well. And sort of working quite closely here with this red glider. And we're kind of around each other for quite a bit at the same altitude. Pushing back quite far once again behind the hill. And then having to keep remembering to keep pushing forwards. And again, you can see the glider in the bottom right corner here coming into glide on its finals. So here I'd finally found my friend James Alcock, and because he was just up there most of the time, but just trying to get a little bit higher before he left. He's been a really great mentor to me. He's one of the senior coaches at Longmynd Club. So it was nice because I had my radio set up properly this time. Could chat around with each other. You can see here we're both sort of pushing forwards. And that's just so we can watch each other when we go up, and then I find a climb, shout to James, he comes over to me, and we can circle in it together. So it's much more effective when you're working together like that, because you've got two people sort of searching for the thermals. It just doubles your chances of finding something, really, if you're just pushing forwards in a clearer sky. And in the next clip I want to show the importance of really constantly scanning the horizon for air traffic, because see how late you see the traffic coming quite close to me. And there it is, going past. But Yeah, if you're not constantly scanning, it can be quite close. Obviously, on the fisheye lens of the 360, it looks kind of further away, but by constantly scanning, at least I was aware that it was coming towards me well in advance, so I could keep out of the way. So here, myself and this red wing, we start pushing more to the south side because there's someone right up at Cloudbase. There's some serious climbs coming over there. The only problem is they are pushing now in front of the airfield where the gliders launch. There are rules about how high you need to be before you cross over it. So I was really trying to be careful not to overfly it at all. So here I'm kind of just on the edge of it, between the paragliding launch and the glider site. You can only overfly it if you're over 1,500 feet above the takeoff. So finally, I do make it up pretty close to Cloudbase, and this is the point where I've sort of decided, right, enough's enough. Unfortunately, I was on my own. My friend Omid was just below me, Omid and Ehsan, two top guys from Iran. So I was kind of trying to like wait around, see if they could catch up. At the end of the day, like I couldn't wait around for much longer, so I decided to start going. And you can see here, this is a classic case of how to step up. So I'm catching a thermal, pushing forwards, catching another one, pushing forwards. Even better would be if I pushed into the valley a little bit more, but then finally I catch one that's big enough that I consider, right, it's time to go. It's always quite a lot of sink over the back end of the Mynd because obviously the airflow is now dropping back down into the valley. So being this high really helps you to avoid that, the main part of that sink at least. You can see here is Church Stretton, Raglith and Caradoc, Lawley. Just in the distance you can see the Wrekin. And here's background to the Mynd. So I could see Omid's wing. I wasn't sure if it was him or not. And we did do radio checks beforehand, but I feel like his radio definitely wasn't working. So here I'm going on glide, just sit to the next sort of cloud that's growing. You can see that in front of me. Worked quite well. Just for a quick top up. And then I head over Wenlock Edge. So at this point I realised, yeah, this is Omid.
I think this is Omid, but that'd be awesome. Here we are. Coming out of the cloud now. Woo!
So you can just see Omid here on the right.
Let's spread out a bit.
So because he didn't have a radio on, yeah, just having to shout to him to spread out a little bit because that, again, increases our chances of finding a thermal. So here's going on a nice glide, seeing all the Shropshire farmland. And at this point, I take a sharp turn to the left, more northerly, because I see a better sort of line of clouds, and I find a really nice climb over Brownclea Hill. You can kind of see here to the right, it's quite like a fairly big blue patch, so I was going towards these clouds in front of me. So at that point, though, I'd lost Omid because he'd carried on going straight. Ehsan also caught up, so they were sort of flying together. But they landed somewhere around here. And so I was quite happy with the line that I took. So in front of me here was the wire forest, which from above doesn't maybe look that big, but as I was sort of going over it, I was like, wow, there really aren't that many landing options here. So I go over it on the more northern side and then come across into Bewdley. So you can see the wire forest behind me, Bewdley there on the left of the screen, and the River Severn going through. Here I hit a lot of sink, so I don't know if the line I took was really the best, or if I should have topped up a bit higher before. But you can see here I start turning more towards the south, towards Bewdley itself, just because in front of me was some airspace in Kidderminster, which I needed to avoid. At first I thought I'd be able to get over it because the airspace only went up to like 2,000 feet. But as I was getting closer into the sink, I realised I'm not going to get over it. So that's why I headed more south into Bewdley. And then just on the left is West Midlands Safari Park, which, funnily enough, as I was sort of looking around, as I'm getting lower, I'm starting to consider which landing fields to use. I see that, I'm like, oh, it's got like nice road access, looks nice and big. Here you can see I'm proper eyeing it up. And then I'm doing a bit of a double take, and I think this is the point where I'm starting to realise, oh, there's really big fences there. That is not the landing place to go to. I start seeing like lions and stuff walking around, so that would be a right story if I landed there. So I decided to push on a little bit further. There's definitely some better field options probably here to the right, but I'm eyeing up this field in the middle with lots of trees just in the houses around. The trees are spread out enough that I thought it would still be a decent landing, but in hindsight, probably be better to choose a completely empty field. But at this point, I was like, game over probably, unless there's a real miracle save. So I started doing a few 360s just around the field, just to get a good idea from which way the wind is blowing, because by doing that you can check your ground speed in all directions. So I recognise which way it's coming from. So this is Stourport, by the way, where I land. Not too far from goal, but unfortunately didn't quite make goal today. But yeah, so I realised the wind's coming from that direction, find that nice flat bit of grass just on the left near the housing, and yeah, that's where I end up putting it down. And here's the flight in total, so yeah, it was a good 50 kilometres. So yeah, really happy with that.